We got a lot to go over today, amigos and amigas. So, welcome to another edition of Midweek With Max. I'm Rick, head of community here at Hemi, as you all probably know, joined by our co-founder Max Sanchez and some very special guests today, and we got some cool stuff to cover. So before we go into our typical Hemi updates, I want to welcome Yasmin from Uniswap to talk a little bit about the partnership. So if you wouldn't mind, if you could just tell the community a little bit about yourself, what the project does, why you chose Hemi, and at the end, you can give an action for what you'd like the audience to do right after the town hall ends. So with that said, I'm going to pass you the mic and go on mute.
Yep, thank you for inviting me here today. I'm Yasmin. I'm the marketing manager from Izumi Finance. Izumi Finance is a blockchain DeFi protocol providing one-step DEX service. So we also have integrated with Hemi chain and building a DEX on Hemi. Just as our name in Japanese, so our goals is to help every partners, every ecosystem, and every token to enjoy on-chain liquidities like the spring water. So we have a very unique features. It's called decentralized liquidity models, which was different and upgraded from the Uniswap V3. Uniswap V3 is the centralized liquidity models. So in Izumi, our DLAM models is to support us to discredit liquidities on every price tick, providing the DEX users a feeling is just using the centralized exchange. And also we have another features called limited order. In Izumi, we put our users first. So we hope to provide the best liquidities and best using experience for Izumis. So another question you have asked me is why we choose Hemi. It's a very funny thing. Just Hemi's vision is very we respect and for us we are 100% agree with Hemi's visions. Hemi is the monitor is layer 2s, and unlike other traditional layer 2s just focus on the Bitcoin or just focus on Ethereum, Hemi's vision is just combine tools, right? Just combine BTC and Ethereum into a unified super network, and unlock a new levels of programmabilities and for abilities. So that's the reasons why we build on Hemi and cooperate with Hemi. For the last, I want to say every audience here just support Hemi, and if you want to do trade on Hemi, you can think of Izumi Finance. We are here. So that's all I want to say.
That's incredible. Thank you so much. If you have any links you'd like the community to check out, whether it be websites, social handles, anything, please feel free to post it in the chat. We also have an ecosystem partner channel, which is available to you and your team to post updates, post links, or what have you. But I'd really like to just thank you for coming out and joining us today. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, thank you so much. I will put later in the Discord.
Sounds great. So before we get on with the run of show, you are more than welcome to stay with us. But if you have other pressing matters at hand, no one's going to be upset if you have to bamf out. But again, thank you so much, and we look forward to those links and great partnership. So with this, I am going to turn it over to Max for his regular update before we get into questions, and then a bit later we will get into the ambassador program.
Do another Midweek with Max, everyone. This is a bit of a, I don't know about impromptu, but traveling in Vegas, and so we're teams running around a lot this week with different stuff around the Bitcoin 2025 event. We're doing at least one side event, maybe more as things evolve. So looking forward to seeing if you're in Vegas, hit us up, let us know, and we can get you a link to that side event. And other than that, mainly just been on the engineering side, a lot of pushing different parts forward. So some work on the BitVM paper, overall BitVM-based design that we're constructing around HVM. So looking forward to publishing that paper in the very near future. I've also been working on some daemon refactoring, things that'll make running a pop miner easier if you want to run the parts of the stack to support it. Basically making the entire stack more modular and easy to run individual components. So if you only want to run, the Bitcoin finality governor and look at Bitcoin finality statistics, that'll now be easier. So a lot of stuff for that is landing and will be released in the next probably couple weeks. And beyond that, still working on scheduling the mainnet Pectra upgrade. We've had some other priorities taking precedence over that, especially with travel and events, but pushing forward on that, and we'll be getting that scheduled soon. And yeah, I think those are the main macro updates. So stay tuned for some exciting news on the BitVM side soon, and I'll turn it back over to Rick to go through questions.
Sounds good, Max. Thank you. And I did notice that a couple people noticed that we are without PMG. Phil today, our head of marketing. He is actually in the middle of an international move and will be back as soon as possible. But I'm sure that's extremely hectic and stressful. Much like hosting Midweek with Max. I mean, I'm just kidding. But brief marketing update. As Max mentioned, a lot of the team are boots on the ground in Las Vegas right now for BTC 2025. I know we're going to have a presence at Permissionless as well, which is in New York. I believe the week of like June 20th, somewhere around then. And beyond that, you've probably noticed the KOL program is kicking off. Demos' second epoch has begun. I realize I'm saying a lot. I apologize for that. And I believe that is like my $2 marketing update. So let's get right into questions. And of course, we have to start with Max. When TGE/tokenomics?
Very soon. So we're in the final stages of getting everything prepped, getting all the third-party dependencies resolved. So don't have an exact date yet, but very soon. We're not quite at ultra soon yet, but still very soon.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I was wondering about that. I didn't know if we had crossed into ludicrously soon or ultra soon yet. We are still very soon. Love that.
We'll
Okay.
probably cross over very soon. But no, in all seriousness, things are moving. It's just a couple of final pieces have to land, and from that we can work backwards from a date that we feel comfortable sticking to with and publicly sharing. So stay tuned in the very near future.
Awesome. Okay. Are there any? This may be a question for Greenwood, and if so, I apologize. I know that both John and Ryan are in Vegas right now, so I don't think they'll be joining us with the amount of stuff they have going on. And thank you for joining us with the amount of stuff you have going on. But we'll try anyway. Updates regarding LP points showing up.
Yeah, really more of a question for Greenwood. I know he's still working on a couple edge cases for stuff that's not showing up properly, so there are problems there that they're aware of and Absinthe is working on fixing, but I don't know the details. And just as a kind of overall clarification, the actual source of truth is the Hemi chain itself. So if there's any points that you should be earning because you're doing something like LPing a certain pair in a DEX, which should be incentivized, that will be remedied even if you're not seeing the points, because before we do the final points finalization, we'll be going through all the on-chain data, verifying that everything got pulled out correctly. So if you don't see it in Absinthe, but you are doing something that should be incentivized, don't worry. It's really just a display issue in some sense, where Absinthe isn't picking up an edge case in how a certain protocol works for a certain pool, or there's multiple pools and one of them hasn't been added to the Absinthe system yet for indexing or whatever. But the source of truth is on chain. Whatever you do on chain, if it is something that should be incentivized, you will get points for it at whatever multipliers have been communicated.
All right. I believe this next question may tie into tokenomics, so I'm not sure if it's answerable at this present state. But is the Hemi token allocation for testnet users below or above 5%?
Still finalizing those numbers.
Totally fair. Will any role have an important impact at a later date? I've seen other crypto projects where specific roles have impact.
Possibly. There's no like for now the roles are mostly uh limited to just Discord. There may be things that a certain role gives you access to, like, some sort of special channel with interesting alpha or whatever. I'm just making stuff up. We're probably not going to do anything on chain related to roles. Anything we do on chain would be related to NFTs more than likely. I know there are some projects who have found ways to bring Discord rules on chain and be able to do stuff with them. So if there's a good, off the shelf third party project we could use for that, it's something we're willing to explore. But at this point, the rules are really more just for Discord at this point, and there may be things in the future, but nothing concrete.
Totally fair. How many centralized exchanges, notice how I'm saying the full phrase and not the abbreviation, have
We've learned.
confirmed we've learned the hard way. How many centralized exchanges have confirmed that they will list on Hemi?
I don't believe I can share that.
Okay, I will move on. I'm a testnet user and my wallet has been hacked. Can I change it and repeat verification one?
I think there was something with Deimos where they were able to. Don't quote me on this, but I believe Deimos did have a recovery option that they were doing manually for some people at some point in time. So that'd be the kind of thing you should open a ticket for. And if John G was here, we could get a definitive answer. But open a ticket. I do know there's been some one-off cases they're able to do something manual for people in the past with re-verifying as a different address.
Okay. Yeah, that's a really good point. If you are a user, testnet or mainnet, and you have a hacked wallet and are having difficulty with anything regarding like Deimos verification or something, please open a ticket, and we will tag the appropriate people for you and hopefully get this sorted out. When will the testnet hatchlings be migrated to mainnet?
Probably within the next week or two, I think is the current schedule. Yeah, no new updates. We're still feeling out the node license market or the node sale market. It's overall it's shifted quite a bit since when we first started trying to do the node sale. So we may still do like a smaller private sale of that. It's not the main focus, but if you already did buy a node license, you either will get your node license or get something equivalent or better than it. So if you have one, it will be taken care of. I'm not sure whether we're going to go and do a public node sale at this point beyond what we've already done, just due to current market dynamics. There may be a private sale that gets done at some point, but that's also still up in the air.
Okay, thank you for addressing that. Could you please clarify whether the third-party swaps on mainnet use the same or similar mechanisms as the native swaps during testnet?
It's somewhat similar in the underlying technology, but so the testnet swaps were our own in-house deployment of Uniswap, whereas all the swaps on mainnet now are through partners like, for example, IzzySwap, SushiSwap, and so they're under the hood. A lot of them use the same technology as our original testnet deployment, but it's being run by a third-party protocol, if that makes sense. I know this is something that was brought up a few weeks ago. We will not be deploying our own version of a DEX because we do have third-party DEXs that are maintained by teams who are dedicated to that. We may at some point add a native integration into the Hemi UI, so the excuse me, the end user experience would be similar, but if that does get done, it would be way down the roadmap. It's a lower priority. For now, basically, we just direct people to those third-party DEXs or the DEX aggregators to be able to go there and trade with a platform that's a DEX deployed on Hemi by a third party.
All right. Oh, here's a good one. Oh boy. All right. I'm not going to say keep this brief, but knowing you, I think you could talk for a good 45 minutes about this. So maybe, maybe do like a $5 version. Of all the features in Hemi, what's the one innovation, like the HVM or proof of proof, that you think gives Hemi a real edge?
I definitely say HVM. I mean, the answer is both, but I think HVM is a lot more interesting from like attracting unique applications, building a unique ecosystem. So Pop is really on the side of security, and nobody really cares about security until something happens, right? And so it's one of those things that, and we've seen this cycle after cycle in crypto where, some projects optimize for security in whatever fashion that means, whether it's a blockchain and it's consensus protocol security, whether it's a DApp and it's the security of audits and the way that the contracts are designed and the governance of it and whatever. Often we see the best features get to market regardless of security in a lot of cases, and then eventually bad things happen. Then everyone cares about security for a bit, and then everyone goes back to new flashy features. And so, from that perspective, Pop's kind of, in some sense, insurance for when we inevitably do see more, start seeing L2 reorgs happen as L2s decentralize their sequencing protocols, stuff like that. HVM, however, is a direct thing that developers can build new types of applications on top of, and it lets you build better versions of a lot of different Bitcoin DeFi applications that do have better security properties because you have native settlement on Bitcoin, say for example, or a DEX or a Bitcoin native lending protocol, but it also just lets you build new types of apps that give better user experiences, like you do a trade and you just get native Bitcoin in your wallet that you can then go do stuff in the Bitcoin ecosystem with directly. And so I think HVM's definitely in the near term the competitive advantage because it allows that new form of Bitcoin DeFi development that just isn't available anywhere else in the ecosystem.
Okay, we have a string of very interesting questions that I think you're going to enjoy. Okay. What kinds of security risks do proof of proof and tunnels actually address? And how battle tested are they now that mainnet is live?
Good question. So two totally separate types of security. So top addresses consensus security, which is basically once a transaction gets into a chain, will it stay in that chain or will it be reorged out and replaced by alternate transactions? So the simplest example is if I send Rick 10 USDC, is he going to remain the recipient of that 10 USDC? Or is there going to be a reorg where I send that 10 USDC to somebody else? Or in the EVM case, I do another transaction at the same nonce that replaces that transaction, and I basically claw back that 10 USDC from Rick. And so that's what Pop's protecting against. It's very battle tested, not just in Hemi and mainnet, but also in a previous project, Veriblock, that ran for in mainnet for coming up on 5 years. So technology is very battle tested. There are some differences, of course, when you apply it to an L2 versus what we were doing previously, but very well battle tested, and that's protecting against that reorg that basically the lowest layer of what constitutes a blockchain. Transactions occur. Is what is the assurance that that state is not going to be reverted and those changes are going to be undone? As in, funds are going to be clawed back, interactions with DApps are going to be rolled back. There's a lot of different types of attacks you can do with consensus protocols if you're able to reorg a chain. For example, in the olden days, it used to just be, okay, you reorg, Litecoin, and it means you could send Litecoin to an exchange, trade it for Bitcoin, withdraw the Bitcoin, and then yank your Litecoin back. And now it's a lot more sophisticated because in EVM environments, it's not just, sender, recipient of funds, and then being able to reverse that transaction or basically, do a chargeback, quote unquote. But now it's what if you were able to roll back a chain, you know, 4 hours and buy a bunch of an asset way cheaper than you should be able to on a DEX because the price has now gone up in the last 4 hours and you're able to revert to that old EVM state where you can buy in that DEX cheaper, or being able to reorg and attack transactions, whether it be a sandwich attack or front running or whatever, where you're able to now with current market conditions, hedge a position and do a attack on a transaction that's doing, say, a trade or whatever, with access to current market conditions on other chains or centralized exchange or whatever. And so the other thing is, usually in the olden days, 51% attacks would target a specific user, as in, it's one user doing the reorg, they revert their transaction. There's no reason for them not to include all the other transactions from everyone else in the network, because then they can collect the fees in the attacking chain that they make. Now, with the complexities and kind of intertwinedness nature of EVMs, in a lot of cases, a reorg, even if it's just a single user who is benefiting from performing the attack, they themselves would often find it advantageous to mess with a bunch of other people's transactions as well. For example, if they're going to go and roll back the chain and then take advantage of a quote unquote time arbitrage opportunity against a DEX that's been rolled back to a state where they can trade favorably against it, then that's going to mess up all of the trades everyone else made on that DEX after that point in time. Or they may even want to selectively choose some transactions to include, some transactions not to include, to get the DEX price exactly where they want it. They may be able to take an open-ended DEX trade and use it to buy up the market at a time when, after the user got a confirmation, they got 20 ETH for 1 Bitcoin, but they had an open-ended DEX trade that didn't have a good limit set on it, and then the attacker is able to then use that to buy up and say, trade that 1 Bitcoin for only 15 ETH and buy up the DEX market, which then they can further benefit from selling into. So the attacks are a lot more sophisticated in the EVM space for what you can do with the chain reorg, which makes the importance of being able to have true finality that you can trust and be able to do that finality in a way that preserves liveness for the protocol. As in, a lot of other projects solve finality by saying everything's final, because if there's ever a reorg, the chain will just halt, that's one solution. But then you have an attack vector where somebody can completely halt your network, which introduces a lot of other security vulnerabilities. With POP being able to inherit Bitcoin security, being able to get Bitcoin finality, that lets us use liveness preserving consensus protocols safely in an L2 context. For example, Ethereum style proof of stake, which kind of gets the best of both worlds. You get ironclad Bitcoin security if you're willing to, wait for that to come in due to Bitcoin's block times and some game theory and statistics between the time that blocks in Hemi are published to Bitcoin and the time that they actually get finalized. But the chain itself, at a what is actually producing blocks that get tentatively added to the chain, that can use a much more liveness optimized protocol. So if there ever is an attack, it's just attacking that short span of intermediate consensus that hasn't reached Bitcoin finality yet. So that's the POP side of security. And then the other side is the tunnel side. And this is probably something that's discussed a lot more these days than consensus security, especially in the L2 space. So when you look at bridges, there's a lot of different types of bridges. There's, in the early days when the first Bitcoin sidechains were coming out, like, Liquid from Blockstream, for example, they worked through something called a federated multisig, which is basically a bunch of trusted participants run a multisig, it's 11 of 21 or whatever, and that holds Bitcoin that gets deposited. You're allowed to, you deposit your Bitcoin into that multisig, you get essentially a bearer bond on the remote chain, you do whatever you want with it, and then you hope that when you come back to the Federation, they A, still have your Bitcoin, they didn't get hacked or anything, and B, will allow you to redeem that bearer bond for the underlying Bitcoin and withdraw. So that was the original trust model. It worked in the sense that people used it, people benefited from it, but obviously there's issues with the multisig participants could be corrupted, they could be hacked. It's fundamentally still a centralized system. And then we had sort of the second generation, which is how Hemi's tunnel design currently works, which is over-collateralized custodianship systems where basically, yes, there's still one or a group of users providing custodianship for certain chunks of assets for the protocol, but they have collateral that could be used by the protocol in the event of an attack to basically make the protocol whole or maintain solvency. So for example, you could go on Hemi and you could spin up a vault and put up, 10,000 USDC and then accept, $7,000 worth of Bitcoin that you custody for the protocol. And if you were to steal that $7,000 of Bitcoin, the protocol would use your $10,000 of collateral to rebuy the stolen Bitcoin from the marketplace, which would maintain system solvency. Then the third generation is what we're getting with BitVM style designs, or depending on Bitcoin protocol changes in the future, if we get opcat or we get a ZK verifier opcode or some covenant opcodes, then you can design more advanced systems, which basically change the trust model to nearly trustless. It's one of n, and what that means is basically you can have n participants, and that could be 100 or 1,000. And if you care about the protocol, you can be one of those 1,000, and then for you, it's completely trustless. But basically, you have a ton of people who all help to construct this complicated transaction graph that basically ensures the security of the Bitcoin. And to go into the details of how that works, that would be an entire Midweek with Max section. Maybe we could do that on one of the tech deep dives after we release the HBitVM white paper. But essentially, you have this one-of-n trust model where, assuming that one of those participants is honest and basically deletes their keys at the time of creating the Bitcoin transaction graph that constitutes a vault, then nobody can steal from that vault as long as somebody is monitoring it, as in anybody. It's permissionless role. Anyone is monitoring it and stepping in an incentivized way, so they get paid to do this, to challenge any invalid withdrawal attempts from that vault. And so that's the sort of ultimate version of security that we can get for Bitcoin custodianship without major Bitcoin protocol updates. And that's generally recognized by the industry as good enough to, bring large amounts, a large portion of the active circulating Bitcoin onto sidechains in a secure fashion, and do so in a way that's economically efficient. Like, you could bring all 21 million Bitcoin securely onto another chain if you had more than 21 million Bitcoin worth of collateral to post against it, right? But in reality, that's not practical, and that's where those over-collateralized systems run into issues, is they don't scale efficiently, and the amount of fees that have to be charged by users of the system depositing and withdrawing have to produce enough revenue for the person putting up collateral that it's worth them using their collateral in the tunnel system versus using it in some other yield farming strategy.
All right. Thank you so much.
Oh, and sorry, one more thing to add on to that.
Oh my.
The unique thing with Hemi is because it's both natively connected to Bitcoin and Ethereum. That secure Bitcoin custodianship model, especially once we get BitVM in it, it's very capital efficient. That lets us bring that hyper secure Bitcoin over through Hemi into the Ethereum ecosystem. So most other Bitcoin L2s, they're just silos on top of Bitcoin itself. So were they to implement BitVM or some variant thereof, they would only be able to securely custody Bitcoin coming onto their network. But then that Bitcoin going anywhere else in the DeFi ecosystem, that would be going through a third-party protocol, like a layer 0 or a hyperlane. And while those are great and very useful for the ecosystem, that introduces a different trust model. And so the security of your asset is basically the weakest link in that chain. So if you take, say, Bitcoin and you take it to Bitcoin L2, just generic Bitcoin L2, and then you go over layer 0 to bring it to Ethereum, any of that Bitcoin representative token in the Ethereum ecosystem fundamentally has the trust model of layer 0, which again is not bad, but it's not the same as a BitVM trust model to the L2. Whereas with Hemi, since we have native settlement to Ethereum, any Bitcoin that comes onto Hemi through currently the over-collateralized vault system, or in the future our HVM-enabled BitVM variant, that same security will be able to transfer through to the Ethereum side because we have native L2 settlement on Ethereum as well. And so then, of course, if you took it from Ethereum and sent it to Solana over layer 0 bridge, now you've inherited layer 0 security again, or trust assumptions again. But anything in the Ethereum ecosystem that you're doing with it, once it goes from Bitcoin through Hemi to the Ethereum ecosystem, that route of getting it to Ethereum is secure with basically the best L2 settlement mechanisms that you can have to base chains.
All right. Thank you very much. Before we
I see
go on,
Jeff joined us.
I was going to say, before we move on to our next question, let's all give a big Hemi welcome to our other co-founder, Sir Jeff Garzik. Thanks for joining us. I know you said in chat you didn't want to say anything, but would you like to say anything?
I was here for an NFT drop.
Yeah, didn't plan on saying anything, but it just so happened that coincidentally, while I was testing NFTs, Midweek with Max was on, and so one thing led to another. As just a quick 60-second what's going on for everyone else. I've been developing, among many, many, many other things. This is mostly a side project when I'm not on executive calls and meeting investors and other things of that nature. I will poke around with NFTs, and in particular, there's an idea that I'd love the community to co-develop with us, Hemi Club. And right now it's just a name and an idea, but part of it is the idea that you can mint an NFT by doing any number of things in the community, whether it's, and I'm making this up on the spot, maybe you have some XP, maybe you have a certain
Do we lose
level
Jeff,
10
or is
on
that just a
Discord,
listen?
et cetera, et cetera. All of that can culminate to an NFT. Check, check, 1, 2, 3.
I hear you loud and clear.
Okay. Yeah. So the idea is that you can have any number of input conditions. I know I'm lounging into programmer speak here, but basically you can have an NFT in your wallet, and that lets you mint a Hemi Club NFT, or in this case, a Mouse Club NFT. Or you can pay, or you can do some community stuff, or you can, pick your other condition. The idea is there's many ways to get this one thing, a Hemi Club NFT. And the second part, that's the first part, part one, part two. Part two is once you have a Hemi Club NFT, the idea is that unlocks boosts, it unlocks other NFTs, it unlocks staking. I'm literally making this up on the spot. VIP staking or something like that. But basically, it's a community-driven, community-focused, community nexus type of concept, and that's what the Mouse Club NFT is testing. So you just got an idea dump, unprovoked idea dump on Midweek with Max. But I'm testing an NFT that lets you either A, you already have an NFT, the Foom NFT, or B, you pay 6,000 hair, or C, you pay 200 max to get in the Mouse Club. So there are 3 ways to join the Mouse Club. And so it's an NFT for proving liquidity, as some chat just mentioned. It's a super flexible, super programmable NFT. It's for the programmers in the audience. It's modular, which means we can add conditions after the fact. So if another NFT comes along and we want to make that the Hemi Club membership eligibility NFT, we can add that to the list of eligibility modules. So I'm testing an NFT that's modular with eligibility modules for a Hemi Club NFT. I hope that was a lot for not speaking.
That's awesome, and the community's been asking a lot about the plan for all the existing Hemi NFTs. So I think they'll have a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, that's great. That was incredible for not speaking. I'm gonna right after the AMA ends, I'm gonna create a new thread under AMA questions, and it'll be tied to Hemi Club. So any community members, I welcome you to drop your ideas in there, and I'll be sure to share the link with Jeff so we can check everything out. But yeah, any ideas you guys have, if it's community driven, you're the community. So Let's do that. Thank you so much, Jeff. And if you want to read more, you can find more information under the Ecosystems Project channel right here in Discord. All right. Max, now that you've launched, what are your top priorities for getting developers building on Hemi, and how will you help them succeed?
I think the main thing in the short term is getting the bounties and grants program up in public. We've been talking to, obviously, different developers privately about different grant opportunities when we come across them and they're interested. But getting that out there public, having a roadmap of, here's stuff that we think would be interesting to build on HVM. If you want to build any of these things, here's what it looks like. Here's a brief technical description of the parts of HVM you'd use and how you use them in kind of a toy example model. Go build a production version of this protocol, and here's what, we as Hemi will do for you for, development bounties, community incentives, things of that nature. So looking forward to getting that out there. We are working on that program. And then I think more broadly, just getting more mindshare and awareness about what HVM is, what you can do with it, what it means to build Bitcoin native DeFi applications. You get, like, Twitter is great, but you get, or X rather, sorry. X is great, but you get, mostly just little sound bites. And sometimes, you get a good thread that really dives into tech details and developers can read through that and really extract useful information. But a lot of times it just devolves into, better Bitcoin programmability. And it's like, what does that really mean? And so we need to get that mind share at that next layer of that discussion of saying, here's examples of what you can build with HVM that you can't build with other Bitcoin programmability solutions, whether that be other Bitcoin L2s, whether that be Bitcoin header relay, whether that be an L1 that's adding some Bitcoin awareness feature to it. And so I think getting that mind share is important to bring in developers with an actual understanding of what we're doing beyond just, the sound bites that people often throw around. So getting that track really rolling, getting that mind share is important. And then making sure that the incentives, the things that we're doing to help people building on Hemi, especially around HVM, but just in general to, bootstrap communities, incentivize them, hook into the ecosystem in a broader way, whether that be, participating in governance somehow or getting a benefit from governance when governance is released on chain, whether that be, other partnerships that we can make between them and other protocols on Hemi. There's a lot of options for that, and really making sure that that program is running as a well-oiled machine, I think, is the next step there.
All right. Thank you so much. Max, with your permission, Hermes, our guest talking about the ambassador program, has a call he has to leave to. Would it be all right if we transitioned to ambassador program and then go back to questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And also, a lot of the community noticed there were a lot of sirens in the back. This is not an official question, but are you okay? Is everything all right?
That's just Vegas.
All right, perfect. So we are going to break up our cadence a little bit and turn the floor over to our good friend Hermes to talk about the ambassador program. Hermes, can you hear us? Hold on, let me just mute my mic super quick and tag him because otherwise Biggs will kill me.
Rick is rugging me. You're sabotaging me, Rick.
Oh my god, I can hear you now. I'm so sorry. I had that bug that everyone else has been getting where the audio just cuts out. I'm so sorry about that. Please continue, and I apologize for interrupting.
No, absolutely. So guys, first of all, thank you for having me here. Thank the community for the warm welcome. I'm not part of the Hemi team. I'm a partner. I'm trying to help here. Ricky and I and the other community team members, we are trying to offer cool stuff to you guys. And I came today to present you what we are calling the Hemi Alliance. We are referring to it as an ambassador program, but it is not at all like in the regular sense an ambassador program, because when we think about ambassadors, it's usually something related to those calls, right? Or something like that. People who have a lot of influence and they are creating stuff to try to validate a project or anything like that. But what we are trying to do here is indeed focused in the UGC stuff, like creating content. You guys creating content for us, but it's not a regular ambassador program. Like what we are trying to do is what Hemi always did here, which is find the good members and recognize them. Find the ones that really contribute to the ecosystem, to the project, to the community itself, and recognize them. So this ambassador program will be based on UGC, and it will be manually filtered. So the Hemi team, the ambassadors, and other prominent members, they will be checking all your submissions, and you get recognition based on the quality of it and your commitment to the community. So we will be checking all the everything that you guys submit, and of course, we are humans. if you are thousands and thousands of good submission, it can take some time to the recognition to reflect on your roles and anything. But you will be seen if you are an active member, if you keep contributing to the community, if you keep creating, engaging and cool stuff about Hemi, you will get eventually recognized. One thing that I think is very important to spotlight here, Ricky, is Ricky spoke about it a lot of times. So it's very important that we won't mess with the current roles and the current recognition stuff that you guys already have in the community. So this is a complementary initiative. It's not like we are changing a route here or anything like that. So the cool roles that you guys already have, they will have nothing to do with the roles that we will be offering in this ambassador program. Initially, there are guild roles. We are not 100% committed yet in how they will reflect as Discord roles and how they will fit in the structure that you guys already have. We don't want to mess with that at all. But guild will be where you guys will check your progress and where you also get access to the tasks. We will, of course, share the most important information here on Discord too, but it will be hosted on Guild. When Ricky will answer you guys I'll give him the pleasure to let you know. But this is pretty much what I have to say. I'm pretty sure that there will be a lot of doubts, and like keep in mind, guys, that initially it's something very simple. You just need to go there and get the roles and get to do the initial task that you can easily find. And this is it for now. We will keep you guys in track of everything happening. We'll keep bringing more and more tasks here and more opportunities for you guys to progress, to get more roles and to participate more and to get more recognition. So just do what you have been doing. Just keep creating cool stuff, being a valuable community member, as most of you down here are, and you will eventually get recognition. I think this is it, Rick.
I think you nailed it, sir, and I really appreciate your time. What I can say is we have an announcement draft posted that Hermes had helped craft, really led the charge on that one. When you're done with your call, if you don't mind taking a look at that, just to make sure we got the go-ahead. But we'll have the official link to the guild page and everything, and that will be going out shortly, so you guys can start your journey into the Hemi Alliance. Thank you so much for your time, sir. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. I want to be back in the next call so I can sing for you. I had my guitar here, but I have another call to attend. I won't miss it because I really want this rap god to grow. Thank you guys very much.
There is always next week, sir. There is always next week.
Absolutely. I'll be here.
Take
Thank you
care,
very
brother.
much, guys.
Thank you so
Thanks
much
for joining us.
All right, we are getting back to our regularly scheduled program, but yes, Ambassador program will be announced very, very, very soon, and by that I mean today, and everyone can start their journey into the Hemi Alliance. Let's get back to questions. Real-world assets are getting a lot of attention lately. How does Hemi's tech make it a better fit for RWAs, and are you focused on any specific types?
Good question. We talked to a couple different RWA providers who are interested in deploying various, some things around, tokenized precious metals, some things around real estate. One project was doing some stuff with real-world equities, bringing those on chain. So definitely something we're interested in. I think it's a underserved portion of the market, and I think the reason we've seen the crypto industry take so long to, and we're still not really to the point of like widespread adoption of RWAs in crypto, is because the governance and verification is just such a difficult thing to solve, because you're basically, it's a real world asset, right? It's not on chain. It's not like Bitcoin, and if you just bang your head against the keyboard hard enough, you'll figure out a good tunneling mechanism, for example. It always relies on external oracles, trust models, and the industry's come a far way in figuring out how best to do those, but ultimately, they do still devolve at the end of the day to, there is somebody somewhere with, holding your gold or holding the title to real estate in a company or whatever. Maybe there's legal recourse depending on the structure if they were to do something against the intentions of the protocol. But I think we are seeing a lot of models that are good enough and people are comfortable with, and so we're starting to see RWAs really explode on chain. I will say we have support in our staking platform for XAUT, which is Tether's gold representative token. And so that's sort of the first, toe dip into the RWA space that we actually have live on mainnet. As far as from the tech side, there's not a lot that Hemi's doing that specifically like directly impacts RWAs. I'd say the biggest thing is, you have the access to both Bitcoin and Ethereum assets and liquidity. And so anywhere you're going to launch a marketplace where people are trading some asset, having access to both ecosystems benefits that, because you can have people buy your RWA in secure Bitcoin, in secure Ethereum, secure ERC20s from the Ethereum ecosystem. Excuse me. So I'd say that's probably the biggest, advantage Hemi has in the RWA space, is just that dual ecosystem asset access. There is also something to be said for POP and the Bitcoin timestamping, where RWA transactions that are being done on Hemi, as with anything else that's done on Hemi, they do have a Bitcoin audit trail. And so if they're ever, because RWAs ultimately, if something goes wrong, they collapse to, legal recourse and things of that nature, and having a, provable chain of custody or a provable, proof of when a certain trade happened and who owned what at what time that is timestamped to Bitcoin, I think could be helpful in that sort of worst case where it does devolve to, a real world, arbitration or some other legal recourse scenario. But I'd say the main thing that would really impact it is just that dual chain asset liquidity.
And there's my unmute button. All right. Here's another good one. What role will .hvm and .hemi domains play in the Hemi ecosystem, and how do you see people actually using them?
Good question. At this point, they're just basically identifiers, sort of like, ENS on ETH, so you can use it for probably the most frequent use you see is people having like a public identity tied to their address, so you can, instead of sending some assets to 0x1837A2B ... you send it to, rick.hvm or rick.hemi. There's some stuff we'd like to do longer term with identity. Doing identity on chain, there's some interesting ideas around it. It's not a priority. Like we're working on, BitVM settlement, decentralizing the sequencer. Those are higher priority than doing something interesting with an identity protocol on chain. But in the future, there could be some interesting ways to use identity. There's some dApps that can use ENS style names in interesting ways. You can theoretically do stuff like, host a website or post some content, but at the end of the day, at this point, it's really on Hemi primarily for easy address identification. And in the future, there's other stuff you can do with, basically anything you could do with ENS names on Ethereum, you could also do those on Hemi. But no plans at the protocol level to do anything with them. That will remain a DApp layer thing, at least for the time being, just like it is on Ethereum.
All right. What's the roadmap for moving to a decentralized sequencer model, and how will that build trust?
No sound again?
Oh my God! Did I just talk over you? I'm so sorry. You went to no sound. Oh, now Max is gone. Hey, Max.
Hey.
Hey. Yep, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep. All right.
Okay. I apologize if I talked over you. It was doing that no one can hear anyone thing.
No, you're good. I don't think anyone talked over anyone because nobody was hearing anything.
Oh, all right. Well, we got that going for us. All right. Please continue, and apologies if I cut you off.
No worries. I'll just restart that. So HVM and the .hvm and .hemi addresses, they're basically the same thing as ENS on Ethereum. And so anything you can do with an ENS name on Ethereum, obviously some things need other DApps to be deployed, and those would have to be deployed on Hemi to get the same feature equivalence. But fundamentally, they behave very much like ENS names on Ethereum. Probably the most useful thing for a lot of people is just easy address identification. So being able to send assets to rick.hvm or rick.hemi instead of 0x182A3CVE ... So there's some quality of life things like that. There's nothing we're planning on doing at a protocol level that interacts with those, just like Ethereum doesn't do anything protocol level with ENS names. There may be some thing in the future that makes sense. We do have some ideas and thoughts around what a more tightly integrated on-chain identity system would look like, but that's not something that we're prioritizing at all at the moment. So for now, basically, think of them as equivalent to ENS on Ethereum.
All right, thank you. Okay, sorry. Okay, so here's the question I was trying to ask when I thought you were done, because we keep getting this weird audio glitch. I don't know what's going on with Discord, but this has been happening lately, and it's weird. They need to find Jesus or something. What's the roadmap for moving to a decentralized sequencer model, and how will that build trust, especially for DeFi using HBTC?
Good question. So roadmap, we're currently targeting sometime in Q3. From a trust perspective, basically it takes the control over what gets into a block and decentralizes that, so everyone participates in that process. Anyone who obviously stakes and becomes part of the sequencer set is part of, in a decentralized fashion, deciding what transactions get included in the Hemi chain. This is a little known fact, but everyone focuses on the sequencer, which is important, but the way, at least with the Optimism L2 architecture, the actual source of truth is what gets DA published to Ethereum. And so you have to decentralize both the sequencer and the batcher role to truly get decentralized transaction sequencing, because the batcher could choose not to publish blocks that came from sequencers who they disagree with the data for, things of that nature. So you need to decentralize both components. The sequencer is the more important immediate one, because then you can build the batcher protocol to need basically the signatures of right participants from the decentralized sequencer set to then be able to post valid DA batches that become or constitute the chain's actual data. But you actually do need to decentralize both components to get the full ideal case of what most people think of as decentralized sequencing. But from a trust model, basically, there's no longer a single entity putting transactions in blocks. That will then be decentralized in a very similar way that Ethereum does it, where there's no single entity who could theoretically exert censorship or anything of that nature. One thing with L2s is they do have this transaction offloading ability. So you can go and you can send a transaction on Ethereum base layer, and that gets forcibly included in the L2. So that does put some limits on what a centralized sequencer can do for exerting censorship. But by decentralizing the actual L2 sequencer, you make sure that that's the case for everyone on the network with all transactions they're doing.
All right, thank you for that. And I have one final question. When will we see a new POP payout algorithm?
Probably in the next week or two. I know I said that like last week. I've been working on some other priorities and traveling, but yeah, probably in the next week or two, we'll have the final mainnet version of post PGE version of the payout algorithm activated on mainnet.
That is fantastic news. All right, that actually brings us to the end of questions that are answerable. There's stuff that we just can't answer right now, so I'm not going to read those for posterity purposes. But in conclusion, Max, thank you so much for joining us. It's very unexpected, but always a pleasure and very appreciated. Anything you want to say to conclude before we go into the wrap up?
No, I think that's pretty much it. If you're in Vegas, hit us up. We're doing at least one side event, and we'll be at a bunch of other things. I don't even know what the calendar is yet. That's what I got to figure out this morning after this call. But yeah, if you're in Vegas, hit us up. Stay tuned on socials for info about what's going on around Bitcoin 2025 and the project in general. And yeah, a lot of exciting stuff coming. And keep your eyes peeled in the next week or two, hopefully, for that HBitVM paper.
That's awesome. Thank you, Max. Well, in the interest of time, again, thank you so much for joining us. And I'm sure you're incredibly busy and tired due to the time shift. So we can leave you with that. Thank you to all our community mods, our community helpers. Thank you to the community in general. Please stay tuned for a couple things. One will be the Ambassador Program, which will be kicking off right after one last look over from Hermes. And we'll be announcing that today. The guild page will be live and ready to go, and you guys can start contributing to that. In addition, we will be having a contest to create a logo for the Max token created by Jeff. I believe we're going to offer one of the roles. I'm not quite sure yet. I'm going to work with the mods with that today and tomorrow to get that finalized. But it'll be basically some hair coins as well as Discord XP and a role. Beyond that, looking forward, we have a bunch of events coming up. As we said, the team is in Vegas. Permissionless is coming up, so please stay tuned to our socials, the announcement channel, and remember that if it doesn't come from Hemi, it's not official. So thank you all.
Awesome. Thanks everyone for coming out. We will see you next week.
And we'll be back with Rap God next week, I promise. All right. Take care.
Once everyone's gotten some sleep.
Yeah. Once people get some rest for once. All right. Thanks so much, all. Take care. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay.